You're live.
Are we rolling?
It says record.
Well, here we are aboard my Tartan 30, and you can see that it is indeed a Tartan 30. And the thing about the Tartan 30 is that the women folk do not like it because it doesn't have a potty in it. It has a toilet, but it doesn't have a holding tank, so they can't really use the toilet. So, Dan, who's holding the camera right now, and his brother Dave, there he is, have volunteered graciously to help me put a brand new holding tank in the Tartan 30. So we have everything cleared forward there in the V-berth, and we have the new holding tank waiting. It's been designed by these wonderful people at Ronco Plastics according to these measurements that were presented to me via the Chesapeake Bay Tartan Association. So let's get a shot of the V-berth. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did we ever have a holding tank in this?
No, it had a bladder. I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. It had a bladder. And
what was the problem with the bladder?
The bladder...
I mean, we all have bladder problems from time to time, but...
Right. But our bladders don't ooze odor. And this particular
well,
bladder...
some people's do, but...
it oozed odor. The previous owner hated it so much that he took it out altogether. And all that was left when I bought the boat were the hoses that hooked up to the bladder. These bladders, they held, they held their weight in more than their weight in various materials. But, ooh, that smell! Ooh, that smell! And you don't need Leonard Skinner to tell you about that smell. So they took it out and left the hoses behind. But we're going to put.
Was this set up for a direct discharge?
It was. I'm glad you brought that up. Back in the old days, because this is a 71 Tartan, you could just pump it right out overboard. But we don't do that anymore because
we drink this water.
Yeah. So to kind of separate things, it's all about the holding tanks these days. Plus, if we sailed it over to Canada and the Canadians saw that I didn't have a holding tank, why, I think they'd take the boat.
They'd call you a hosehead.
Right. I'd be a hoser.
All right.
So,
let's take a look at that holding tank.
Let's look at that holding tank. All righty then. So, I'm shooting this affair from the forward hatch, so we can get a good look at this. Dan, you've got the...
I have the Ronco holding tank.
Yes, right there.
Notice this has been designed to fit snugly against the hull. Only one problem that we've got here, and that's, it's not quite a square peg in a round hole situation, but this access cover to the starboard, starboard? Yeah. Starboard compartment up here, just adjacent to the bulkhead for the forward bulkhead for the head, is not going to be large enough to accommodate getting this holding tank in.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, previously we already tried every combination of different angle and juggling to try to come up with some possible way to avoid cutting a hole in down here, but none of the three of us, and by the way, Dave is off camera, he's a little camera shy, so, but we're going to end up cutting a hole through the bottom down here. We're going to put a little board in to reinforce the bottom of this piece of fiberglass. We're going to cut a piece of marine plywood to fit in and build a little platform the bottom of this holding tank is going to rest on. That's probably step one in our process. We have, since this is the location that the bladder was stored in, we'll call it the smelly bladder. We already have a passage for the hoses from the head to the holding tank. And so really what we need to do is get this located in here, and depending on how much battery we've got, we might even get to the point where we finish it and create a decorative cover for the hole that we're going to cut.
Decorative.
A decorative cover.
Women folk like decorative.
Absolutely, and we know we got to keep the women folk happy.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess we should probably break out the power tools.
Okay, let's do
Kev,
that.
how do you feel about me cutting a big hole in your boat?
Hey, man, it's not going into the hull, right?
Well, we were thinking it would be so much easier to do it from the outside. Just
but then all that water starts gushing in, and
there is that. Yeah.
They charge you to pull these things out from the bottom.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So when we're done, we'll have a holding tank installed. It'll be plumbed up to the head, and we'll have an access cover that can be pulled off in the unlikely event that there should be a leak.
Cool.
So I'm going to start by just hacking a hole here in the center, and then bring it up to to our cutout lines.
You know what I decided? This works so much better when you take the cap off.
We take the cap off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Take two.
Yeah. Wait. Cut.
Okay.
Well, you missed my comment then. It is so much easier to use a Sawzall on someone else's boat than your own.
Wow. Can we use this on yours later? Okay. Can I? I'll use it on yours and you use it on mine.
Good deal.
Okay.
Got a handsaw for this.
All right. So again, I'm gonna start by just hacking a big hole here in the center.
Okay.
Then I'm gonna bring it into the into this line
All right.
and carefully, skillfully guide it across. That's the idea.
Okay.
Anyhow, it's really tight, a tight area even for the Sawzall. Try.
Whatever you want to do, buddy. You're the man with the saw. I always listen to the guy with the saw.
Oh, it looks like we just succeeded.
Wow, that looks just like the photograph on the internet.
So now we got to figure out, how does this thing need to sit in here? How far up does this have to go in order to clear this? That's going to be interesting. We'll have to raise that hole a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually been quite a time we've had. We ended up making a trip out to my favorite store, Tractor Supply, where amazingly they had fittings, so we didn't have to kludge together a lot of separate fittings, but we were able to, let me get this, we were able to take and get one-piece fittings to go under the holding tank. You notice.
Oh, you're showing
These.
those fittings. Those are
So-
groovy fittings. I'm like way all about those fittings.
Absolutely. So we've routed our hoses in, by the way, with no small difficulty from the head on the other side of this bulkhead. And we have a way to get the tank into the existing hole. See the hole there? That's the top access. And below here is the hole that we've cut in the side of the V-berth to install the tank. And we fabricated, a little change in plans, we fabricated this right here, which actually sits underneath the tank and levers it up into position. I'm not sure if this is our final design, but it holds the tank in place for us to plumb it in for now. Kevin is currently cleaning the existing fitting off of the toilet, or sometimes known as a head, so that we can mate up a nice clean surface there.
Nice and clean.
Nice and clean.
Hey, there's a Clorox thing that does the same thing. Oh, here.
Oh,
But you this
hey,
is
wait a
your-
second. This is that whole lens cap
Right.
thing again.
This is me shooting you though, because you know we need to talk about the whole dissertation thing here about exactly how tight those should be.
Yeah.
Because they're
I
not.
wish it was an exact science. It's more of a feel than a science.
So it's not about muscling those things,
No,
and it's not about them being.
wouldn't you say?
I would say you would not want to
This
muscle
is-
those things.
Yeah, you don't want to muscle those things because after all, it's plastic. Not like I did when I was a kid, fixing my bicycle and stripping out the hubs.
How'd you do that?
Oh, they had to be tight so they'd never come off. That's what my
It
dad
sounds
told
like
me.
your dad told you that.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
a little stronger than I realized.
You know, being a dad myself these days,
Yeah.
I can tell you I give my kids a lot of bad information. So this is the tank.
Yeah.
We have tightened all the fittings onto it. It's what I believe is tight enough without over tightening. You'll note, if we look real closely here, there's a generous amount of Teflon tape on each of the joints. And we're now going to lube up those fittings so that hopefully our hoses will slide over them. And we're going to tighten some clamps on, wedge the tank into place, and then our volunteer is going to consume 12 beers.
12 beers.
And then test the head.
12 beers.
He's going to christen the head.
We'll get it on tape.
Lubing it all up here. We're using soft soap today. Just
Wait,
for the...
do we have a product endorsement?
Yeah, there we go. Soft
Soft soap.
Soft soap.
Not just for your hands.
It's slippery. And when you need something to be slick, why'd you just break out the soft soap? And it's antibacterial, too.
Oh, no bugs.
No bugs.
Cool, man.
Love that soft soap. So, it's just like Windex. In that big fat Greek wedding, people thought you just use Windex for your windows, but then they found out you can clean your tables and everything else.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
So here we are, day 2. Tank is installed. Might be able to see some of the excellent plumbing work that was done here. The issue that we've got is because of the way the tank has to get wedged in up forward, we're not able to build like a platform for the tank to slide onto. So we fabricated this wedge right here which holds the tank up and over, and what we're going to try doing is operator error with the camera.
Oh, let me see.
I got it back. I had zoomed all the way in. Everything was white.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to foam this tank in there. We're going to make a little pillar support. We're going to make a cardboard form, probably maybe in front of this. We'll lay a little piece of PVC piping in there to make sure that we preserve drainage across the bottom. And then we're going to fill it with large gap-filling foam called Great Stuff.
Because it is indeed great stuff. Yeah.
All right, so here's what we're doing.
Okay.
We put in this temporary little brace to hold the tank in place, to make up all the fittings and everything. Now we're going to take... Where's the Great Stuff?
Oh, let me get the great stuff. Here's the great stuff.
So we went to the local Home Depot and purchased Great Stuff.
Oh yeah, man.
And it is truly great stuff. We're going to use this Great Stuff to make a support for this tank. We've created a little cardboard form off the side of our temporary brace. And
let me get a shot of that, Dan.
And so basically I just duct taped some cardboard in place to kind of give it some form. And I've got some cardboard running up underneath the tank to try to contain this. As it goes in, it starts expanding kind of immediately. So I wanted to contain it as much as possible and form it into that brace shape that we wanted.
Yes.
The way this tank sits in here, the force we need is against that corner pushing up. Yeah, let's see. Are we actually going to read instructions or not? Big gap filler.
Big gap filler?
Because that is a big gap. Though I've used the regular stuff, and it seems to work fine. I'm suspecting that this expands more quickly.
Wow.
Also, got to mention, underneath our form,
yes,
we laid in a small piece of PVC piping along the bottom of this channel.
Right, because you want
to
it to
make
drain.
sure if any moisture or, God forbid, leakage comes into this compartment, we'll want it to be able to drain over into the bilge.
Does it expand then?
Well, it kind of. This is the first time I've used the large gap filler, which seems to expand like immediately.
I see.
As opposed to the other stuff that seems to expand more with time. So I'm thinking what we need to do right now is wait.
All right.
This would be a good chance for time-lapse photography.